On behalf of the Gros-Ventre Board of Directors, I'd like to thank all of the candidates that have come tonight for the forum, and thank all of the residents for having attended also. The board has asked that Janet McAlally, who's had quite a bit of experience in this type of forum, to supervise it tonight. So, Janet, it's yours.
Thank you, Tim. I want to welcome everyone too. I think we're so fortunate to have 8 of the 9 candidates who have filed their papers for the District 2 City of Miami Commission seat. I talked with all of them ahead of time. I've only met some of them tonight for the first time, but they are.
Could you speak louder? Yeah, we can't hear you.
It's on, Jen.
It's on.
Yep, that's fine.
Now,
That's better.
holding it better. Try to remember that. Anyway, they are an outstanding group of citizens who really believe in participating in our democratic process. And I, as a former candidate myself, countywide, I really appreciate what they are embarking on. It's hard work, it's arduous, but they believe in the democratic process, and we are lucky to have them here tonight. So what we're going to do is start by asking each of them to introduce himself or herself. I'm going to give them just 2 minutes to do that, not because we're not interested in what they are all about, but because with this many candidates here, we need to move on and get to questions that many of you have submitted to us in the last few days. So without further ado, why don't we start over here with Javier Gonzalez, a Coconut Grove resident, and someone who's connected with my children 4 years ago.
Thank you, Janet, and thank you, Gros-Ventre. My name is Javier Gonzalez. I've been a resident of District 2 for most of my life. I grew up on Secaucus Street.
Stand up, please.
You want me to stand up? I'll stand up. I'm not very tall. Again, I want to,
Can't see you.
and I'll hide behind this wall. Go ahead. No, I don't want to be in the front there. Again, I grew up on Secaucus Street in North Grove. I remember this when this was Fair Island. I used to come out here as a kid. So thank you for the invite. A little bit about me. I've been married for 30 years. I got married back in 1984, Cinco de Mayo, back when it wasn't a big event. I am a local real estate agent. I've owned a bakery, and I started my career as a retailer. I worked for Jordan Marsh. I was the youngest salesman in Jordan Marsh's history, for any of you that remember Jordan Marsh back in the day. I opened International Mall. I remember that clearly, and that's where I met my wife also. A little bit more about me. I am the current chair, or was the current chair of the Village Council. I had to resign the chair because as you sign up for a commissioner seat, that's one of our bylaws. So I was your chair, and during that time, one of my main goals when I was elected in 2013 was to make sure that we communicated as a Village Council. Most of you have heard of the Village Council, but I know most of you have not been there in a while. So one of the things that I really wanted to do was outreach, and we reached out to not only city folk, we went to the county, and we went to state. We wanted to make sure that everyone was involved, and that was really one of our major accomplishments. And the reason that I'm running is a lot of the folks asked me and said, hey, Hop, why don't you run for commissioner? And I always ask them the same thing. What would make me a good commissioner? They said, listen, you listen. The one thing I can offer you is, as a commissioner, I will be accessible. As a real estate agent, I'm accessible, and I am a problem solver. So I look forward to this discussion, and again, thank you for having us here.
Thank you very much, Javier Gonzalez. And now, Rosa Maria Palomino.
Rosie, please.
All right, why don't you stand? And I forgot to tell you that Tom Cadigan, a member of the board, is the timekeeper, and he has some cards that will let you know how much time you have left. So please, Rosie, if you want to move out there where you can see more people.
Can you hear them?
Now, it was on.
How about now?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, my name is Rosie. I am a lifelong resident here. I am a lifelong resident. I was born and raised here, my 46 years. I have stood before some of the finest people in this room in a lot of the greatest fights we've ever had, and I actually refuse to continue the rest of my life living here with all of the nefarious things that are going on. So, I'll tell you a little bit about me. I am a veteran educator of almost 19 years. I am the creator, I am the producer of Miami After Dark Radio. I was a former small business owner, current, or also small business owner through the radio station. But I was involved in medical and optical franchising from New York. I was a head buyer. I employed many people, and I was in a mall for 7 years. I worked 363 days of the year, and I worked 7 days a week. I am unencumbered. I was as a child here, I experienced eminent domain when my parents came 4 parcels away from losing their home. I am not a novice to this system. What I have done recently is open up a poll site when our park was closed. I did get Douglas partially open. I did run off a developer far, far away, he left. And I continue to do things in Tallahassee as my legislative relationships are quite excellent, and that is necessary. So while our current commissioner is trying to pass a bill that's quite nefarious for the last 4 years, we stopped it. And I just am here to let you know, I've been on the job for a while, you just didn't know about it. Some of us don't say it, but I am unencumbered, and I refuse to let this city continue to be hostage and while they destroy the promises of the future. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Rosie Palomino. And now we have Williams Armbruster.
Williams Armbruster is my name. Does everyone hear me?
Yep.
My grandfather came here in the late 1800s from Cat Island Farms. My father was born here. I was born here. My wife and I have 8 wonderful children, and we have 5 down and 3 to go. I spent a few decades working with Florida Power & Light, and I wanted to maximize my potential. So I retired from Florida Power & Light, wanted to become a nurse. And in the process of my clinical side, I was able to attend some of the commission meetings. And from what I was hearing, there was no representation for the people. I saw lobbyists there for the developers. I saw campaign contributors there for the candidates, but I saw no one listening to the concerns of the people. They were hearing, but they weren't listening. So my reason for being here now is because this is my island. As a matter of fact, me and a lot of my classmates went to Tucker, St. Hugh, Tucker, Carl Gables, and Harvard, and we spent our middle school years, what they call middle school now, out here skiing and fishing and jumping off the bridge. And I used to look over, I wonder how nice my house would look being built over here. But it appears you've done a much better job than I could have done. And I'm a candidate, again, for the City of Miami Commissioner to District C, because there needs to be someone that has a compassion for the needs of people. I am not one that act on what I feel, what I think, or opinions. Those 3 things I don't do. I assume a position as in the best interest for the concerns that continue to be expressed to me. And that's what I'll be. I'll be a representative for the people and for no one else.
Thank you, Mr. Armbruster. And now we have Grace Solares.
I'm Grace Solares, and let me tell you a little bit about myself very quickly. I came from Cuba 55 years ago. 48 years of those 55 I've lived in this district. I'm a graduate of the University of Miami. I graduated magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. I have a major in history and a minor in English. 2 decades ago, I became an activist and an advocate of the city, fighting for quality of life issues. I am a member of the Presidents of the Rose Association. I am the co-founder and vice president of an organization called Miami Neighborhoods United. I am the president of the Urban Environment League. And in doing so, I've joined many causes for the protection of the quality of life of the people who live in this city. One of them was yours. I joined Grove Isle and joined with John Lucas, your attorney, and Patrick Goggins, representing the lady across the water, when the ill-conceived project at Mercy Hospital was going on. Then the Viscayans joined us, and then the Rose Association with me joined us. I actually hit on the part of the traffic coming down here. So for the things that I fought all of these times, I want to implement them. I want transparency, I want accessibility to government, and most importantly, people's participation in the decision-making process of the government. Government by ambush, no longer. You will know exactly what's going to go in your area, when to elect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Grace Solaris. And now we have Ken Russell.
Good evening. How's everybody doing?
Great.
My name is Ken Russell, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself and why I'm running. I was born here. My wife, 3 kids, 2 dogs, 2 cats. We're all Grovites. My wife would be here, except she has 3 kids, 2 dogs, 2 cats. Yeah, well, I've lived here all my life. I mean, well, I left for a little while, but I'm back. But I was born here, and I love Coconut Grove. I love Miami. That's a very corny thing for a politician to say, but if I'm honest, I never really intended to be a politician, because I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a fighting activist, I'm not a lobbyist, I'm a business owner, I'm an entrepreneur. I come from a background of solving problems, figuring things out, getting things done. You all know about Merry Christmas Park. It was contaminated, closed for 18 months. The city had dumped contamination there, toxic waste, and didn't have any intent of removing it. I live right on that park, so I got involved and I started asking questions. I used my business background not to sling mud and fight, but to negotiate with the county and the city to come to a consensus. And I was able to convince them to remove every ounce of contaminated soil that they dug up. That wasn't their original intention, and it's gone. It's clean now, and it's open again, and I'm very proud of that accomplishment. I invited all of the candidates here, and I'm very proud to be amongst this group of people. I enjoy them very much. But while I was in the process with the park, I saw what the city does wrong, and I think you're feeling it here. I think you recognize that developers get priority over residents very often, and their quality of life. So I think we can do better, don't you? Yes. I think we can do better. If the right person is in the right position for the right reasons, good things happen. So as you look at all the candidates, please consider those 2 things. Are they in it for the right reason? And are they going to be effective? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken Russell. We have an empty seat here tonight. That is for candidate Teresa Sarnoff, who was invited but emailed me as of late yesterday afternoon that she had another engagement and would not be here. So now I'm happy to introduce to you Lori Woods.
Thank you all for having all of us here, giving us an opportunity to speak about what's important to us and our passions. I have been in Miami for the past 5 years. Came out here with my husband as a corporate change, got out of the executive type environment and thought, let's do something that we really have passion for. We found a little restaurant in downtown Miami, purchased it, kept the staff, fixed it up, and then attempted to wait for the people to show up. It was extremely difficult 5 years ago, the way that the community was at that time. However, people would come little by little, and they came and they helped, they supported, they got us through a lot of really rough summers. And a lot of what happened to my family at that point was back and forth and communication with the community. Why is this broken? Why is this wrong? Why doesn't anybody hear us? So I ran for Downtown Miami Partnership, their board, was elected almost 4 years ago, and have served in a private sector, working with the Downtown Development Authority, trying to get communication between businesses and residents and the city. We have run into enormous brick walls with the city of Miami. It has been an extremely frustrating process to do what's right for all of us. And so I am here before you because I am running for the community. It's about time, it's about you. I never thought I would be standing up here as a candidate. However, it's time that we really focus on the future. We make sure that we look out for all of us. We have a lot of blighted areas within District 2, as well as a lot of extremely well-to-do areas. We need to spread it. It needs to go back, and when we work with development, we need to make sure that the community is receiving back from the city. And that's why I'm here.
Thank you, Lori Woods. Now we have Mike Simpson.
Good evening. My name is Mike Simpson. I have been a resident of South Florida for almost my entire life, a couple of years of college and a couple of years of marriage, which was about as successful as the years of college. Like most South Floridians, even though I didn't live in District 2, my life centered around District 2. I worked in the shops and the restaurants up and down Biscayne Boulevard. I played at the AAA and went to shows at the Arch. I was a member of the Renaissance Festival when it was at Vizcaya all those years ago. So when I got married to my current wife, which is doing much better than the first one, I managed to move into the Grove and become a Grovite along with her and our 2 dachshunds, which apparently are a Grove necessity. My entire background, almost my entire life, is customer service. Whether I've worked in hotels or kitchens or stores, my life has been about making sure that the people who ask of us get what they want. And being this close to City Hall, it's a little hard not to see that that's lacking in our city. And it's not just a Grove thing. It's very evident in the Grove, but it's also evident in Brickell. It's evident when you drive across the Venetian, when you drive up through Bellmead. So I'm running because I want to see change for the future, but I also want to see it happen for the entire district, not just for my backyard. I want to see it for everybody, because changing it for everybody will improve all of our lives.
Mike Simpson, thank you very much. And now we have Seth Sklary.
My name is Seth Sklary. I've been a Grove resident for more than 47 years. I've seen a lot of changes. I have a long history with Grove Isle. Back before it was developed, the developer ran into a little financial problem, and they sent down people who had loaned the money from Cabot toward a guy named Jack Lowell, and they wanted, basically wanted to get whole again. So I said, well, how much would it take you to get whole? They said, well, $7 million. And I said, well, I went to the city and I said, well, why don't we just make a park out of it? Well, let's pay $8 million, we'll put on a referendum, and if people want it, we'll build a park. And everybody thought it was a great idea, except for the Miami Herald, who kind of campaigned against it and killed the deal. So when they eventually did build here, they wanted to build 40 stories, 4 40-story buildings. And we went to the city and fought, and we got them to keep it at 18 stories. So that's my history with Grove Isle. I currently sit on the Coconut Grove Village Council in favor of bicycles. I ride a bicycle most of the time rather than a car. We're working on developing bikeways and walkways and pedestrian-friendly areas throughout the city, but along Bayshore Drive especially, and downtown Miami. There, and we also have the Underline, which is being proposed underneath the Metro Rail. So if you're interested in these type of things, please support my campaign. Thank you.
Thank you, Seth, Larry. We have a number of questions that have been submitted in the last several days from residents at Grove Isle. And the first one I will throw out to you is almost, and this comes from some reading the Miami Herald. Almost a dozen citizens have accused the City of Miami officials of using underhanded tactics in an aggressive effort to promote lucrative projects for developers. In 3 instances, citizens have asked the courts to protect the public by invalidating these voter-approved projects. They are, one is in Coconut Grove, another behind Bayside, and on Watson Island. The city has asked the court, and it's in the appellate court now, to deny these plaintiffs the right to sue. Do you believe that the city should deny these citizens standing in these matters? City is spending taxpayer monies to keep citizens from getting the answers that they want from the City of Miami. Is anybody?
May I address that? This is mine. 2 of the lawsuits are mine.
Well,
And they're trying to tell me I don't have standing. So if I may address that, I may. Standing is extraordinarily important for the citizens of Miami, not only me, but you. If you find, or if it's your position, that the charter of the City of Miami is being violated, that the ballot on the language when it went to the voters is not accurate, if certain codes of the city are being violated, and they're saying that I don't have the standing to challenge violations of the charter, then who would? If it's a taxpayer who does it, who is it? Themselves? Then one commission is going to tell the other one, hey, you know what? You're doing something wrong. You just violated the charter in doing that. If it's not the taxpayers of the citizens of Miami who actually have the standing to sue for something that is, in my opinion, a violation of the charter of the City of Miami, then we're dead. Then we might as well ask the commissioners and the mayor of the City of Miami to take the charter and the code and let us have a huge bonfire, burn it, and then we'll just go ahead and pass whatever. Yeah, this one is fine.
great.
But this is just not the way. It is you. If I prevail in my standing, it will you, the standing that will have.
I think you're very clear on that matter.
Thank you.
Russell wants to respond.
Yeah, a brief statement on standing. I believe I've recognized that there is a fault in our system that is designed to keep the residents out of the government. There is a system of checks and balances, and we are meant to be at the table. The residents are part of that checks and balances. We're supposed to be watching the government. But when they put a referendum on a ballot, have you ever gone to vote and you don't know at the end of reading that whether you're actually saying yes or no. That's designed that way. That was written by a lobbyist. That's the first step in keeping you out of the process. Much less that you got to the ballot box in the first place. This district, 80,000 people, only 5,400 voted in the last election for this district. Imagine the buildings here. How many units? 500 units here? You guys have a voice. If you mobilize, you have a voice, and that's the first step. Standing is just another way that they're trying to keep people from the table. It's your responsibility to step up and be at the table. No one's going to hand it to us.
Mike, go ahead on that one.
One of the other issues in this with standing is that our current commission seems to be forgetting that the city of Miami isn't just 51 square miles in the middle of nowhere. We abut up against other neighborhoods. And a lot of these issues and lawsuits are where we're running into friction. For instance, you mentioned the Watson Island project. It's Miami Beach that has a huge problem with that because it's going to basically shut off one of their arteries. Imagine trying to get grocery stores stocked or gas stations filled if you put a 5,000 unit hotel right there next to the port. Or the Miami Marine Stadium issue, where the city of Key Biscayne has a problem with what they're doing, because that's the only way in and out of their city. How are they supposed to get the daily things? Part of being on the Miami City Commission is not just thinking about the people that live in your district or the people that live in the 5 districts of Miami, but it's how we work together as a metropolitan area. Most people live in one area, work in another area. If it's a 2-family household, they work in 2 different areas. Kids go to school in a different area. All of these areas have to work together. When the county tried to shut down our libraries last year, we should have been standing up because a lot of those libraries were in the city of Miami. Where were those voices? So part of it is not just looking at the confines of the district and the confines of our city, but working with the county and with the other neighboring communities.
Thank you. Thank you. Rosie, why don't you stand so that people can, I'm sorry about that pillar.
Most of the reason that you see what's happening is because they know the powers that shouldn't be known, that no one is civically engaged, that no one cares. So they run the numbers. And they figured out that when they design something, because I believe that those that write the law set the traps. And if you look at the city commission, there is no balance. You have people that are protecting clients. I'm going to repeat it. They are protecting clients and special interests. So you must choose wisely. You must see who has a vested interest, who is protecting who. And I got to tell you, when you have a radio show, you learn a lot. And you see how these lobbyists work with each other, and you see who goes out to lunch with who, and you see things that you've never seen before, and you say, oh my God, we are in such trouble. I am telling you, the apathy is what they know. They know that whatever they do and whatever they come up with, they know that no one cares, so they just throw it on the referendum. They just throw it on the ballot. They're like, whenever they come up with something, no matter how stupid it is, they know that they put it on the referendum, and people will literally go out there and vote for it. So these are the things that we see. And it is just perpetuating a diminished quality of life because of just general apathy. So I'm just...
Thank you, Rosa. And Mr. Armbruster.
Yes, go ahead.
No, set that.
All right, self-swearing.
Now, Jack King, who's an old, he had a newspaper in the Grove for a while, but he wrote an interesting article last week in the Biscayne Times, which kind of is circulated up in the north end of the district. But he was talking about how the current commissioner snuck in about another 157 parking spaces in the past 6 months about the Dock Masters building. There's supposed to be a 100-foot setback, and I kept asking, well, when was this vote taken to build this building right on the water? And nobody comes up with an answer. You know, they ignore it. And all this stuff happens behind closed doors. When Al Crespo goes and asks for public records, they stonewall him most of the time. He has to go to court once a week to get them to divulge records, who they talked to, who they met with, what's going on. And this has got to stop. It's time for change.
Thank you, Seth. Anybody else want to comment on that? Mr. Alpester?
Yes, you're talking about lawsuits, and I'm glad you brought up Mary versus Park as well, because we were told, well, the community in West Grove was told that the only reason why we have nothing operating in our favor is because we won't show up to the meetings. So when the developer who made major contributions to Mark Sarnoff's campaign wanted to implode the residential community with commercial, I knocked on just about every door and left notices all over Coconut Grove that we need to be present at the meeting in opposition to moving commercial development in a residential community, which is not good for this city and any city, as a matter of fact. And so there were a lot of seniors that it was supposed to be the first item on the agenda. So we got there at 5 o'clock, and it was 1:30 in the morning when 80% of the seniors were still there to voice their concerns and their opposition to moving commercial development into the residential community. And the commission, the young kids I call them, they thought it was in the best interest to allow the developer to have his way. And when that happened in 2010, Williams Armbruster filed a lawsuit against the city of Miami and the developer. It didn't get the zoning reversed, but what it did was bring attention to the impact they're trying to have in the residential community. So that's why the property is on sale on Grand Avenue now, and I see we have a couple of lobbyists here. So the property on Grand Avenue is on sale now, and because the owners, because of the lawsuit, found out that they had been ambushed, they had been hoodwinked, and they were being taken advantage of. And then on the Park, so let me tell you the situation with that. That came about because they wanted to put a trolley, which is industrial, abutting a residential community. And I know that it shouldn't be done because not knowing at first that I didn't have to print the entire, all the documents that they were there, I saw the zoning codes, and you don't put industrial development abutting a residential community. And the developer had compromised our commissioner as well as some of the organizations in the community because our commissioner said, look, they're going to contribute $250,000 to the park. Just let them put it there and it'll be all right. So when the University of Miami that was working with the Ministerial Alliance, who's the only organization with any degree of integrity in West Grove, when they got University of Miami, the president at the time was Jeffrey Hamilton, and he investigated it, and the city said it's a done deal.
Mr. Harris, you're going to have to wind it up.
Okay. Anyhow, when they went to City Hall, the University of Miami Law School was working with us. When they went to City Hall and they saw that I was correct, they also found out that the incinerator had contaminated all the parks in the city of Miami. And that's how all the parks got closed. Because I'm not one to take no for an answer when I'm correct. That's why I don't do what I think or what I feel. I do what I know. I take a position on things. I don't offer opinions, but I will listen to your opinions and I will listen to your concern. And if you don't have the documentation to support either of those, I will seek the documentation. Because this is my home, and I'll fight for it.
Thank you, Mr. Arthur. We've all read a lot about the trolley garage on Douglas Road, and thank you for what you've done to make that a better situation.
For the people, that's correct.
Did everybody else get to respond to this question about standing for citizens who want to question the city commission?
I believe that everybody has a right to speak their mind and to question their government that's there to serve them. I think that one of the issues is not they against us. I think that oftentimes people don't do their due diligence that are in leadership roles. And I think that a lot of what's needed is clear, concise communication about the projects that are put forward and what the benefits that we're going to receive from development and ways that we can work with developers to benefit the community for all of us. And I think lawsuit after lawsuit, and that to have a commission that would rather avoid a discussion and create an issue where people have to sue in order to have a conversation is completely wrong, and that needs to change.
Thank you, Lori. We have another question here. What is your position on the Grove Isle development issue? What is your vision for development in North Grove?
Well, this is really why we're all here now, isn't it? I think you guys are genius for calling this forum here today, because now you have an audience of everyone who's running for office, and you'd like to know what they think. Well, we kind of want to know what you think, and we're going to say exactly that, because this is a smart group of people. But there's always every side to every story, right? And I'm one to try to find every side of the story to reach a solution. I've read everything from your side of the story, but I hadn't heard others. So yesterday I reached out to the city and I sat for about 4 hours with some very good people in planning and zoning for how did we get to where we are today on this project. And then today I called Eddie Avila, the developer. He's not here today. He said he didn't feel appropriate coming today. He has donated twice the maximum limit to Commissioner Sarnoff's wife, who is also running, which may explain a little bit about why she's not here today. There is a relationship that needs to be understood. We have a very strong developer-commissioner relationship in this city. And I really believe that with everything you're going through on this development right now, it could have been nipped in the bud at the city level if when they presented this 18-story tower, the city said, that doesn't suit code. What you want to do doesn't work here. And the 5-story alternative probably would have sent them packing to start with. But they were encouraged by the city. They said, oh, this may work. And so they went forward, and then they presented proudly to you what they wanted to do, thinking this was going to be a cakewalk. Now they're in it. And now they're going concession after concession, trying to make you happy enough to let it happen. But I think they're starting to realize that this is a war of attrition that they may not win. I spoke with that developer today for about 40 minutes. Seemed like a nice guy. But he is a money guy, and he's not a litigator. That's what he said to me. He said, I'm not a lawyer. I'm a businessman, so time is money for me. I don't want to fight. He said that to me. And so, well, I'm not saying he's not a fighter, but I'm saying when you guys put the rubber to the road with the legal pressure, this causes him to lose money with time. And this is a tool you have used because he's losing money every day. How long will it take before he says, this is no longer a profitable situation for me? I don't know. He hasn't said yet. Because I asked him, I said, well, if you couldn't get your 18-story and you're only doing 5 stories now, is this still worth it for you? He said, at the moment, yes. I think he's underestimated the strength of this group and how far they're willing to take this, because this is about your quality of life and your home. It's not a numbers game. And so I'm very much in favor of the people and your quality of life. That's what I think is important.
Well, I acknowledge you, person supporting the Grove Isle, supported you before, and I will support you again, and I said this a long time ago. This is your quality of life, and I've been fighting for that quality of life for a long time. I don't believe, truly, in someone coming into a neighborhood, because this is a neighborhood, whether high-rises or not, in order to try to make money, just to destroy the quality of life of the people who have lived here for 30 years. What Ken said right now is absolutely true. You must stay together. You must fight this issue to the end. Because this issue that they're telling you that T5 is only 5 floors is not. Miami 21 allows them to have the first floor 25 feet, the second floor 14, the third one 14, the fourth one 14, and the 15th 14. You do the math. What is it, a 5-story? What we know as a 5 stories is 50 feet. You're talking now 80 some odd feet. So you're going to have buildings in front of you of probably 8 or 9 stories high because Miami 21 allows it if it goes through. You have my total support in opposing this issue. This island, I don't believe with the infrastructure that it has, can actually afford what they're intending to put here. It'll be the destruction of your life as you've known it. So I'm supporting you on the Mercy Hospital, and I'm totally supporting you on this issue.
I can give you a solution. It only worked for me, because that's all at this point. I know the pressure. You have 2 things going for you. There's a county commission. There's a county race for mayor. When we had the FEC slip situation, we organized hard time. I mean, really, it was rough. We organized and organized and organized and organized, and it took a lot of trips to the mayor's office. That would be me. Then we brought the residents with their trim notices to the mayor's office. And they dropped their trim notices, people that are paying $14,000 a year, $30,000 a year, $20,000 a year, and they were going to have this view totally obliterated. Well, I got to tell you, then we organized at the radio station, where the mayor was invited, and when he walked in, he had everybody waiting for him. Well, that night we made history because the answer was no. And the FEC didn't happen. And we didn't have to go to litigation and nothing else. And with the developer in my backyard, basically I did the same thing. I got the mayor involved because guess what? Let me tell you a little secret. They do whatever they want, however they want, and with whom they want. And they sign off on everything they want, whenever they want, with whomever they want. And everybody pretty much knows that. But it takes a lot of pressure. And if that means that all of you have to get up and you have to show up to his office and maybe this entire room, I guarantee you there will be a change. And, you know, that's their decision. Whether they want, you know, campaign contributions to family members, because, you know, we're great about nepotism in the city, and we have a feudal system, and we have a monarchy now with, you know, the crown being passed to Ms. Arnoff. So it's up to you. Pressure, pressure, pressure. Show up with those trim notices and bang down that door and say, this is how long we've lived here, this is how much we pay, and we need to take care of the problem. Thank you.
Anyone else on your position on the Grove Isle development?
And sorry, I speak only on some of the issues that I understand and know. When this was presented to us at the Governor Grove Village Council, my comment was, look at your covenants, look at what you can defend. And knowing that the project had 3 buildings and a 4th that could have been built, that is what you folks did. You did the right thing by challenging it legally and intelligently. Now, when it's brought to a commissioner or it's brought to a council, we have walked a very delicate line between private rights and also the community. When it was brought to us for the historic designation for St. Gaudens, which was, it just actually passed just last week. When it was brought to my attention, it was brought to me, we had to decide between private rights and we had to decide between a community. When you can raise this amount of people, as a commissioner, as a councilman, as an individual, you have to listen. That is the decision that we make as commissioners. We have to say, listen, we are up against this as a builder, but we're up against this from our residents. You've done the right thing, you're fighting the right battle. We support it, I support it, everyone probably here supports it. You've done the right thing, you're doing it by the proper channels, and I feel strongly that you will win because you're on the side of the angels. Thank you.
Anyone else want to respond on the position on the Grove Isle development issues?
Grove Isle development issue. I will say this much, that I'm not reckless to the degree that I will respond to anything that I don't have all the details in regards to, but I will say this: if you trust your chair here, I will count on your chair to relay your message to me, unless I get one person in opposition to the position that the chair expresses to me. Because I think too highly of myself to be a politician, because I haven't seen one politician that I would mirror to. I'm going to be a servant in the political arena. I will be the only one, and I'll be the first commissioner that was actually born here and has generational ties to this community. I don't come with a promise, I come with a guarantee. And I fought for everything and everyone else, every other issue that the people that are in opposition to, I fought because it was the right thing to do. Thank you.
Mr. Let's see, Seth Scolari wants to comment.
You know, just because you can do it doesn't mean that you should be able to do it. And I stand with residents of Grove Isle. You know, when the owner of the hotel wanted to do some remodeling and add some units on the building, he didn't quite follow the code. And I held his feet. So I was a building and zoning structural inspector for the city of Miami, and I hit him with a $25,000 fine for failure to comply with the code as it existed then. So I fight for you, and I'll make sure that what needs to be done needs to be done. And like I say, even if they can build 100 stories, that doesn't mean you should let them do that. You can fight, you can decide, if worst comes to worst, you can buy them out. I mean, it's expensive. That's not always practical. But if you stand together, and all of us are behind you, I don't think anybody here is for what they're proposing here. So just stick together and you'll win.
Mr. Simpson.
I know back in 1977 when Grove Isle was finalized, when they wrote the settlement, they limited the number of residences to be out here. They did it because the roads that came in this way could only hold so much traffic. The neighborhoods would only support so many people. Look at Bayshore Drive. Bayshore Drive is exactly the same size it was in 1977.
Because we kept it in 2 lanes.
Exactly. But why should we change the number of residences out here if 40 years ago we limited them because the infrastructure around here wouldn't support it? It still won't support it. Unless the city is willing to make Bayshore Drive 6 lanes and add 2 lanes out, and you know they won't.
No.
The infrastructure, all you're asking for is more traffic, more congestion, and more trouble out here, at the expense of possibly losing the club and the restaurant and the hotel completely. Because I know I was reading some of the legal briefs, and once that's bulldozed, now we look at Miami 21. You can't put a commercial property in the middle of a residential area. So once it's knocked down, that grandfather is gone. So what do you lose, and what bad things do you gain to do something you couldn't have done 40 years ago? Exactly.
Lori Woods wants to comment.
Thank you. I agree with all the candidates here. As city commissioner, as city government, it's what the people's voice is that needs to happen. It's not about government governing the citizens, it's the citizens telling government what's necessary.
Can I just follow up on that question? You guys are terrific, and we all, I think, love what you're saying and believe you're real people. But it seems to me that with the choices of so many good people, aren't you just going to splinter the vote and wind up with Ms. Sarnoff getting, and it seems to me that your hearts are in the right spot for the city of Miami, and I know you each want to be a commissioner, but it seems that somebody ought to get a coalition and say, this one or two people out of this wonderful group should be it, and take her on. She's already got $248,000, according to the Daily Visitor review, that she's raised by all the real estate people.
No, more than that.
And that was as of 2 days ago. That was 2 days ago. 248 was the DBR, here's the article. If you want. But that was old news. But the point is, can't there be some kind of decision made? Otherwise, what happens? 5 of them vote for him, 5 for her, 5 of them. Is there an answer to this, Ken?
Well, how would you decide which of these people? The election doesn't take place until November. There will be a sorting out process. We are the beginning. This is the first candidate forum for the District 2 candidates.
Janet, if I can jump in.
Excuse me. I'm sorry, so your name?
My name is Alan Goldfarb.
And you are a resident here?
I reside here
Oh, bless you, thank you.
since 1996.
Amen.
Yes.
How many seats are all right?
Just one. Just one, is that right? Just one seat?
One seat, and we're looking
All
for-
of you are going against the Sarnoff seat, right?
Yes.
I don't understand that. You're great people, we all love you. Get somebody.
Alan, excuse me, but a lot of people submitted the questions in advance.
Okay.
We have people here who are offered themselves for this office, and the process is one of sorting out in the 6 or so months we have to go before the election. So, Mr. Russell, you want to respond?
I recently posted an opinion about the splitting of the vote. That's a very common thing you hear, splitting of the vote. They're going to lose because they're splitting the vote. In a pure plurality election, that is true, because the person with the most votes wins. In that case, if the one candidate that we're all fighting against, the incumbent basically, has a certain percentage of votes, and all of us split up the other percent that would have been against her, she wins. That's not the case in this type of election. We are first past the poll here. Nobody can win without more than 50% of the vote. So whether there's 1 of us or 10 of us, if she doesn't get past 50%, it goes to a revote 2 weeks later. A second election with the top 2. And then, that again, someone has to get past 50%. So please, please, please do not discourage the democratic process. These people are very brave for getting into this race. This is something you don't want to bring on your family. This is something you don't want to bring on your private life. I don't think anyone here that I see is looking for political and personal gain to be a part of this. But we're all in it very much with our hearts and with the right intention. So please encourage that. Vote for who you believe is going to be the best.
Javier Gonzalez wants to respond.
Also, it's very important that one of the keys, and it was said earlier today, that a lot of the votes didn't come out. By having more candidates, we create a larger voter base.
That's
What we do is then we keep out the big money, the big ugly, everything that everybody always complains about. So if we, in the last election, had 5,500 votes, and all of these great candidates come out, and we generate 10,000, 11,000, 12,000 votes, that's the vote count for the next election when you have to throw one of us out. So this is a good thing. This will not split the vote. This will be actually a very good thing to get the vote out. And then the top 2 candidates will run again. Who knows? Maybe it will be one of us 2 that will be running.
Sam Squires, go ahead.
Quickly, you know, Miami Beach had a good proposition. They passed it, and it seems to be working. They said that developers could not contribute to city commission candidates. And it would be great if we could do that in the city of Miami.
Go ahead, Mr. Simpson.
Just to kind of reinforce the whole splitting the vote thing, when Commissioner Hardiman was elected, he did not get 50% of the vote and had to go to a runoff. And in the runoff, he was elected with almost 75%, if I remember correctly, 74 and change. So we have the possibility with each one of us generating a pool of voters because the deck is a little stacked against us. There's a reason why these are held in odd number years. There are no state elections. There are no federal elections. You have to get people off their couch to go vote for a city commissioner, a county commissioner, and most people don't. Our current District 2 seat was elected with less than 6% of the registered voters 4 years ago. And that is what we have to fight. And the fact that there are 8 of us that each can drag 3% of the registered voters out, that's going to triple the amount of votes that we had last time. And then the voters will decide which one of us ends up in the second spot or the first spot, hopefully. It may not even be a runoff. But you won't have to worry about one person running away with it unless they can honestly, unless we don't do our job and get people out for us.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson.
I wanted to address Mr. Goldfarb with just one.
Rosie, let's do it quickly and
Sure, it's
try to
fast.
stay on point.
It's a happy thing. The good news is that the last Mark Sarnoff election, Linda Haskin raised $700,000. He had 70, he won. And I really believe in all of my heart that this election is not about money, and they know it.
Thank you. While we're talking about money, here's a question. Have you received and will you accept financial contributions from real estate developers?
There's none left. I don't think there's any left.
You don't think there's any money left?
No,
Where are
no,
they?
there's just a little gag. If you look at the $333,000, I don't think there's much left out there for a developer to give out.
Well, the March 31st financial report, which is on the internet, by the way, if you go to the City of Miami website, clerk's office, you can look at what the candidates' fundraising has brought to them. As of the 31st of March, Ms. Sarnoff had raised $333,000. None of the other candidates came close. Some have raised significant amounts of money, but you can look at that, you can watch it, but if you think of a 3-month campaign where a candidate has been raising over $100,000 on an average per month, then we've got a good 6 months to go before the election day. How much more money will be involved in this? So if any of you would like to respond to that question, have you received contributions from any real estate developers, or would you accept that? Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you. On my own personal, I am a real estate agent, so I do work with realtors. So I have received income from my RE/MAX office, and I expect to get income from some of my realtor friends. Now, from a real estate development standpoint, I mean, all kidding aside, 330 pit, or you're going to donate the money at the end. Getting the vote out expands the voter base. Miami is just about that. If you expand the voter base, there's no way big money can win. I'm telling you, we've done the numbers, we've run everything on it. There's just no way that'll happen. So tell all your friends, make sure everybody gets out and votes for whoever you like.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. On the question of donations from developers, would anyone else like to respond? All right, Grace?
Thank you. I have received.
Stand up, Grace, because the people in the back of the room
Sure.
can't see you. Lori Woods?
To this point, I have not received any money from a developer. However, I would not say no dependent on the individual. I don't think that all developers are bad, just as I think most people are good. So I think you really have to know when you are offered large sums of money, how you decide to take that money. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Simpson and then Mr. Russell.
I think the unasked question of this is, what would you do if you were offered a large sum of money from developers or any other special interest that has an interest in the city of Miami? Would it affect your decision making? Would it affect your... And in my case, I can't speak for anybody else, it would not. I am running because I want to be able to listen to all sides and make decisions that will be for the good of the entire community. I will not have my opinions bought. But I think that's mostly the question that's being asked. I know that for the last 8 years, it's been pretty much expected from this district that that's what's happening. And I know that that's what we're trying to prevent. Most of us sitting here, if not all of us, are trying to prevent it from happening for another 4 years.
Thank you very much, Mr. Simpson. Now, Ken Russell, and you should stand.
I have not received any donations from developers yet, but that doesn't mean I haven't spoken and met with developers, because I believe they are a key part of the system here. To pretend that developers aren't a part of this community, or to say that every developer is bad, is a bit of a one-sided statement. You need to look at this holistically and really study a community, because some growth is good in the right parts of a community. And not all developers have given to the incumbent. In fact, several of them have been damaged by the incumbent, and they would like to support someone for the sake of a fair bidding process, or for good government that involves development. And in fact, I've met some of these people who said, well, I don't agree with them, I'm going to vote for you, but I've already donated to them because I have my business needs to survive for the next 10 months. And they're in this industry. And there's that blatant of a pay-for-play at the commissioner's level at this point. So honestly, there's not a big fear of the developers running to us at this moment. In fact, they're protecting their own interests by giving to who they need to give to stay in business at this point. It seems like a broken system, but it's not. It's just a few broken people. So you may see some developer donations throughout this. It is very naive to think that we are going to win without money. I'm sorry, we are up against a professional electioneering machine. And you have to be a professional as well. And it does take money to win a campaign. I'll be asking all of you for a little donation as well. We need help. We need you to invest in us, because we're investing in good government. So, thank you.
They're going to ask you now, so don't leave.
Mr. Armbruster.
Yes, we don't all need money. What Williams Armbruster needs is your prayer and your vote. And what I do need, most of all, for all the residents in this district, is to Google the name of the candidates and see who's been consistently fighting for people not having to be attached to an association or an organization, who's willing to get out there and take the bullet for you. That's what you ought to do. An educated voter is in the best interest of everyone concerned. So I would not accept $1 million, $1, but I will accept your prayer and your votes. That's what Williams Armbruster needs from you, because I will not allow myself to choose to be compromised. When you accept money, you choose to be compromised, or at least giving the appearance that you have been compromised. And just like my mother before me, she was never compromised. She raised me well to fight for people who don't know they need to fight, or that there is a fight even going on. My mother, Esther Armbruster, raised me well, and I need your prayer and your vote. They need your money.
I have another question here. Do you have any proposals to improve the nightmare that is Miami's traffic situation, which will only worsen as each building presently being erected is completed? Think of Bayshore Drive as you provide us an answer. All right, Rosie?
The reason why you have all these emergency projects is because the city is so negligent let's put it this way, they don't maintain anything. Just like they'll put, a building on a ballot and they'll get it built and then they don't maintain it. And then 10 years, and then they'll knock it down because they love to bulldoze everything. And then they'll knock it down, they'll build another one and they won't maintain that and then they'll knock it down. And the pipes and the drainage probably hasn't been touched in years because our current commissioner is busy making lots and lots of money in downtown. Which means my neighborhood, you think you have problems, you should see where I was born and raised. Because I was born and brought up in that same neighborhood that I currently live, and my mother on the other side. The secret is, well, the dirty little secret, is that Miami 21 was written as a jobs program. It was to avoid laying off people. CIP only has a couple of full-time employees, so they fire and hire and fire and hire and fire and hire. And we have the infrastructure literally in shambles. On top of that, you have these, the claim to fame of this current commission is that they have erected, no pun intended with Skyrise, 1,000 buildings in downtown. The problem is a lot of them are non-functional. They're not true mixed use. So what happens is you have all these wonderful people that get sold on this great view and great, amenities, and they literally have nowhere to do their business. So they have to pour into the neighborhoods while they're avoiding the MDX tolls and the crazy I-95 tolls. They pour into the neighborhoods. Then you have the crazy projects where you have kids that are yelling and screaming at 8:30, their parents can't pick them up because they can't get from Pollo Tropical to, Ransom or whatever school they're in because of all the crazy projects, all due to negligence.
Ms. Palomino, we're going to have to cut it short, but the question is, do you have any solutions for the horrendous traffic?
Transit. There we have some serious transit issues. And until transit isn't fixed, it's not going to go away.
All right. Mr. Gonzalez?
Traffic, transit. The biggest misconception is that it is multifaceted. You're dealing with city, county, and state. So a lot of the times we run into issues where you think it's a city street, like the one outside that's going to be developed, which is Bayshore Drive. That's a county street. So what happens a lot of times is people don't know who they need to talk to or what buttons they need to push. Again, a commissioner has to do that. Mike brought up a really cool point. Mike brought up a point that the commission has to get along with state and county folks, even federal folks. And I think the commissioner, the next commissioner, has to have that type of temperament. They have to have that ability to be able to speak to a lot of individuals to get things done. The easiest transit solution, obviously, is to bring, for Coconut Grove, is to bring the trolleys all in. We worked on that. We're working on the trolleys. It goes back to a study that Coconut Grove didn't need a trolley. If you look now going back into it, and if you want to get into very technical, Miami-Dade Circular, which is the 249, is the most popular, most well-written circulator in all of Dade County. And now Dade County is who runs your buses. So the buses out there are Dade County buses. So where does the trolley go to? Mercy, because they don't feel it's needed in Coconut Grove. There is a study being worked on. You will be getting a trolley into the Coconut Grove. It's just a matter of a few more years as they work through the trolley system and a bunch of other items. But that's already in the plan. So that's one thing that we as commissioners can continue to push. But the biggest thing that we can do as commissioners, dialogue. Speak to the folks that can get the things done. County, state, feds. Understand the process and make sure that we can get it right.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez.
Sure. If you think this transit is a nightmare now, you ain't seen nothing yet. We are on the precipice of a new wave of development that is going to blow your mind in terms of how many people are going to be dropped into this city on the existing roadways that we have. This is the #1 issue we have in front of us, is how congested these roads are going to be. And we're looking to a government solution who is not so famous for being very efficient and open-minded. One of my ideas is to look beyond public solutions and look for private solutions. Put some ideas into the hands of think tanks, some startup companies. Look at what Uber's done the new online taxi service where right from your phone you can see every existing taxi in the area and get one, and it's cheaper than a traditional taxi. A lot of governments are fighting that because they have a traditional mentality of a medallion system. This is a new idea. Technology is letting us do things. Here's an idea. We have beautiful waterways here. Take examples from other cities and other countries. Stockholm in Sweden, Copenhagen, Seattle. These places all have a mass transit system on the water. It sounds crazy because you say water taxi and you picture this little boat and you're getting windy and wet. It's not like that. There's bus systems. There's schedule. You could even do something like an Uber on the water. Imagine from here, on your phone, you push a button and a boat comes from an independent owner who's going to take you wherever you want to say, I want to go to South Beach, I want to go to Bayside, I want to go to the Grove. These are just ideas. It's not the fix-all. I'm saying we need to think outside the box because little band-aids on our existing system are not going to stop the bleeding of what's about to happen. So we need a very open view. That's all.
Seth Scolari?
One of the proposals we came up with a long time ago, about 30 years ago, was to double-deck Dixie Highway so that those people who go through our area but don't stop here can just keep going. That people who live in Kendall, work downtown, they can go. There's no traffic lights that would be on our streets, and there would be, the same people who come up Bayshore Drive when Dixie is crowded. The other thing is to have a coordinated transit system so that we can incorporate water taxis, so that we can incorporate all these things, but they have to run together, that they have to connect. If you want to get on public transportation from Coconut Grove to Aventura, it's going to take you 2 hours to get there. With All Aboard Florida and the Tri-Rail, you're going to be able to get there in about 20 minutes. But that's 3, 4, 5 years away. But there's all sorts of areas that are tremendously built up. You have Doral has hundreds of thousands of people out there, and fortunately, they live and work out there. They don't have to come into this area. But the tens of thousands of people who do come into downtown Miami, we have to make accommodations for them. For people who want to get from one place to another who don't have transportation, we have to accommodate them, and we have to coordinate all these transportation systems. And it takes a great vision, and it takes somebody like Bill Lehman, who was our congressman, who fortunately sat on the Transportation Committee and brought a tremendous amount of money for expressways and for connections into Dade County. We don't have that person anymore. We need somebody like him.
Thank you, Seth Scolari. We have one more question, and then we'll call it a night. What is your highest priority for District 2?
Want me to take that?
Well, whoever wishes to give us the answer. If we could do it quickly, though, I think people are...
I think the biggest priority that we have in District 2 is communication, is making sure that the residents know what's going on. Projects are going to happen, roads are going to go down, all of these things are going to do. We need communication. We need folks to know what the city is doing. And it's got to be maybe a better way of doing it. Maybe a communications partner that gets more information out. One of my pet peeves, and going back to Merry Christmas Park, Douglas Park, why can't we just put a sign somewhere that says, hi, this is what's happening? It's not that difficult. But I think as we, as commissioners, communicate, tell people what's going on, be upfront, let them know what's happening, I think that's a key element. All of the other things we're going to have to deal with anyway, between development, between the traffic, between all of the other items that we're going to have, that's it. But if we don't communicate to you, then we're not doing our job.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez.
That is absolutely correct. Javier. Public participation in the decision-making process of the government is paramount in the city. I mentioned before government by ambush, and that's exactly the way the city actually conducts its business. The fact of the matter is that they put something on an agenda 3 days before they vote on it, and we don't know about it. We cannot continue to do that. as one of my priorities is going to be to give instructions to the city manager that the first vote in an item is filed with the city of Miami, impacting District 2, that the District 2 office be informed immediately, so that the office of District 2 may be able to immediately get in touch with you if it's in this area, or it's in the Grove, it's in the area, or if it's in downtown, or if it's in the Upper East Side, or if it's in Morningside, it doesn't matter. Those people will know from the second it's filed what's going to be going before the city commission so that they have a say-so on the item. You cannot just find out 3 days before what's going on. So now notice. That has been my pet peeve for the 20 years that I've been doing this. People need to know what the government is doing or is just about ready to do, way before they do it, so we can be heard, so we can have a voice, so we can have an opinion.
Thank you, Grace Solaris. Thank you. Mr. Armbruster, you're signaling.
Yes, one concern that's been expressed to me on another occasion is the fact that the residents aren't notified when there is an issue for hearing, because the notices are normally sent to the owners of the properties, wherever they live, and the folks that are renting their properties aren't being notified that their presence is needed. So that is one of the many issues that I will address, and I'm not going to try to do anything that I know needs to be done, and I have the ability to unite these commissioners on issues and matters throughout the city, because I'm a very good listener. I'm not good at persuasion, but I can make certain that you understand what is truth and what is lie. So that's one thing that I am going to get done.
Thank you, Mr. Armbruster. Anyone else want to give their district priorities? Ms. Woods?
Thank you. I agree with the other candidates on communication. I think, though, that the city, the commissioner's office, actually all of our government needs to work much stronger on engagement. We have multi-generational individuals that make up this district, and there are different ways to communicate with somebody that's 18 years old versus somebody that is in their 80s. And I think that we have to take that on. I think it's a different society that we're living in now, and just like the transportation issue, things are changing, and we need to keep up and actually be much more progressive.
Thank you, Lori Woods. Anyone else? We just have 2 minutes left, so let's go quickly, please.
Give me your email. My email is setformiami@gmail.com. You give me your email, I'll communicate it with you. Al Crespo. Al Crespo's got the best blog in Miami, probably one of the best in the United States. Read what he says. He'll tell you what's going on, and he'll tell you things you don't want to know, but he's good. And, you know, we have the Cookman Grove Village Council website. You can contact that. Give us your email. Give us your cell phone number. We can message you. Give us your Twitter account, Instagram, Twitter, you know, whatever it is. The electronic, all we have to do is press a button and we'll inform you what's going on. Just get involved.
Thank you, Seth. One last comment, okay, Mr. Simpson, but let's do it quickly. I think the audience is very happy.
While I agree with everything that's been expressed here, I think one of the biggest issues that we have as a government in our city is that our government doesn't see past the end of their term, and nobody looks at the long-term effects of what they're doing. 75 years ago, they took all the ash from our incinerator and buried it in land that they had around the county because they just needed a place to put it. And now 75 years later, we're having to tear up all of our parkland that was put on top of those because we're finding that it's toxic. We need to realize that things that we do today will not just affect our lives beyond the end of our term, but it will affect our children's lives and their children's. And we need to have a longer term plan than I'm gonna put up this building because it's gonna make us money this year.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Simpson. What the last word here,
Okay.
Mr. Russell?
I'll be quick. Nobody ever complained about a politician being too quick. My number one priority is to bring back integrity to local government. That's the thing that keeps us from being able to sleep well at night. If you know your government's taking care of you with your interest in mind, it's all going to be okay. So I want to bring integrity back to local government.
I just would like to thank you all on behalf of Grow Wild for doing this. This was very informative and very appreciated.
Thank you all.
I also would like to urge you all, don't waste your campaign money on negative campaigning. Please.